The crates came through Dover like they always did. No alarms, no delays. Just another shipment of fruit, wrapped and sealed, heading north to Glasgow. Border Force officers moved slowly, peeling back the layers. Bananas, stacked tight, skin still green. Then they saw it. Silver foil, one brick, then another. By the time they were done, the count was 119 packages, and the street value was close to £76 million. The paperwork led to a Glasgow fruit merchant. On paper, everything looked fine. A fruit company. But what lay behind it was anything but routine. A second operation, hundreds of miles away in Kent, had already been exposed weeks earlier. Machines pressing millions of counterfeit Valium tablets, silent workers, locked doors, no signs of life. Until the red dots of armed police lit up the walls. Both scenes pointed to one man. He wasn't there. He was already gone. This is the story of Stevenson, the quiet Scotsman who built a multinational drug empire and disappeared before the doors came off the hinges. He wasn't loud. No social media, no flashy cars, no gangland bravado. But everyone in Glasgow's underworld knew the name Jamie Stevenson. He came up quiet, South Lanarkshire, early 2000s. Trusted, careful, and always just out of reach. In 2001, the whispers turned sharp. Tony McGovern, a well-known face, was shot outside a pub in Springburn. The man once chosen to stand beside him at the altar was now the man police believed had him killed. That man was Stevenson. But the case collapsed. No witnesses, no conviction. And in Glasgow, silence like that holds weight. He wasn't charged again, not then, but it was the first time his name left the shadows. In 2007, he resurfaced, not for violence but money. He was jailed for laundering over £1 million following a surveillance-heavy operation codenamed Folklore. The evidence was built over months, phones, meetings, financial trails. When the case landed in court, police called him one of the most senior figures in Scotland's criminal hierarchy. He served his time. And when he walked out of prison in 2014, something had changed. No more local jobs, no chaos, just strategy. He started building again, slowly. Trusted lieutenants, offshore links, shell companies. His stepson, Gerard Carbin, became one of his key men. The violence was gone. This was about logistics. No more pub shootings, just boxes of fruit, invoices, quiet meetings in hotel lobbies. On the surface, he looked like he'd left life behind. But underneath, he was laying track. And what came next would stretch across 4 countries, pull in millions, and leave investigators chasing ghosts for years. By early 2020, quiet suspicions were turning into something sharper. There were too many banana shipments heading for Glasgow, too many unusual consignments, and the man behind the company, David Billsland, was already known to police. During the same time frame, he was spotted in Spain, not on holiday, in a hotel lobby, sitting across from Jamie Stevenson. A quiet meeting, no headlines. But it was enough. Police Scotland launched an inquiry. They called it Operation Pepperoni. What started as routine surveillance would soon connect to one of the most significant breakthroughs in modern organised crime policing. That same spring, French intelligence infiltrated EncroChat, a supposedly uncrackable communication system used by criminal networks across Europe. The breach gave investigators access to thousands of messages, previously hidden behind layers of encryption. Inside those messages were coded conversations, talk of fruit, containers, drops. A name never appeared directly, but patterns formed, timings, contacts, and instructions all aligned. And Stevenson's digital fingerprints were everywhere. He wasn't on the street, he didn't touch the product, but the structure, the decisions, they were his. Two handles stood out, Elusive Ival and Big Tasty. They matched his movements, his contacts, and more than that, they spoke like someone in control, discussing cargo, logistics, funding, and even staff reshuffles. The chats revealed something else. This wasn't just one line of business. There were references to pills, to pressing machines, to containers landing on multiple shores. Scotland, Spain, Ecuador, and Abu Dhabi. The scale was international. The network ran like a corporation. And as investigators traced the messages back, one address kept coming up: a warehouse unit on the edge of Rochester, Kent. It didn't look like much. Just another grey unit in an industrial estate off the A2. No signage, no reason for police to be watching. But inside was a machine built for mass production. Not phones, not parts, but pills. On June 12, 2020, officers raided the site. The lights were still on, the press machines warm. Tubs of pills were packed and labelled, a handful already loaded for transit. This wasn't small-scale supply, it was industrial, capable of pressing 258,000 tablets per hour. The drug was etizolum, known on the street as Valium, stronger than diazepam. Dirt cheap and devastating when mixed with other substances. By the end of the search, they'd found 13.5 million tablets. More than 28 million were believed to have already circulated. But the factory wasn't the point. The operation was. Encrypted messages showed the structure. Paul Bowes receiving bulk shipments. Gerard Carbin, Stevenson's stepson, handled the machines. Ryan McPhee moving boxes between flats, storage units and cars. And at the center, Stevenson, running it remotely, directing every shift, every roll, every pill pressed. He wasn't just selling, he was scaling. Telling contacts there was enough for a year. Planning 10 million tablet batches at a time. One message talked of 200 kilograms of base powder coming in by train. Another showed Stevenson instructing Carbin to run it, make sure they don't steal. Every line read like a manager briefing his team. The building was legal, the pills were not. And when the factory was finally exposed, police weren't just looking at a drugs lab. They were staring into the heart of a system designed to operate in silence. Three months had passed since the raid in Kent. The pill factory was shut down. Stevenson, arrested in Glasgow the same day, had been bailed and vanished. But his operation hadn't stopped. In September 2020, a refrigerated container arrived at the port of Dover. 18 previous shipments had come through without delay, but this one was different. Intelligence flagged it before it left the dock. On paper, it held bananas, fresh produce, bound for a Glasgow importer. But something about the routing didn't sit right. Border Force opened it up. Inside, pallet after pallet, crates filled with fruit. At first glance, everything seemed normal. Then they started digging deeper. Behind the front rows of bananas, they found foil-wrapped bricks. One, then another, then dozens. What they pulled from the container wasn't just fruit, it was cocaine, compressed and hidden, tightly packed into 119 silver-wrapped bundles, each one sealed, stacked, and smuggled with precision. The weight came in at 952 kilos. Purity tested at 73%. Above all, the estimated street value was up to £76 million. The shipment was addressed to Glasgow Fruit Market Limited, but the listed director, a vulnerable man with no criminal record, had no idea his name was being used. The real control had come from elsewhere. And even in hiding, investigators believed Stevenson was still calling the shots. EncroChat messages matched the timeline. There were discussions about delays, customs, and fruit deliveries. One chat read like a risk assessment, nervous about a random inspection. They were right to be nervous. The 18th shipment was their last, because the seizure didn't just stop a single load, it exposed the scale of the supply line. South America to Scotland. £76 million hidden under fruit. The shell was clean, but inside, the weight told the truth. When police raided the pill factory in Rochester on June 12, 2020, Stevenson wasn't there. He was in Glasgow, just across the Clyde from where it all began. Plainclothes officers tracked him to a quiet meeting at the Sherbrooke Castle Hotel. As they moved in, he ran. It didn't last. He was arrested nearby. On him, a high-end encrypted handset, EncroChat. That should have been the end of it. But what came next raised more eyebrows than the factory itself. He was bailed, not kept in custody, not held as a flight risk, released and gone. Within days, Stevenson had vanished. The man who once ruled Glasgow's underworld slipped through the system and left the country. No forwarding address, no recorded departure. He kept moving. Spain, the Netherlands, rumors of Abu Dhabi. Some said he was staying with contacts from the Nurai Island days. Others claimed he never left Barcelona. For nearly 2 years, he stayed hidden. No phones in his name, no bank traces. But back in the UK, his operation kept moving. More shipments were arranged, more roles delegated through trusted contacts. Even with the Kent factory shut and the cocaine seized in Dover, Stevenson remained an invisible figure. His name stayed off headlines. But his fingerprints were everywhere. In 2022, he was placed on the NCA's most wanted list. Photographs circulated, aliases listed, descriptions posted at airports across Europe. And then, in February that year, a break. A tip came in. A man matching his description had been seen jogging in the Dutch countryside. Police moved in quietly. He was arrested on the spot. No resistance. After 20 months on the run, Jamie Stevenson was in cuffs again. But this time, the case was already built. When Stevenson was flown back to Scotland, he was ready to fight. He denied everything, entered a special defense of incrimination, naming others, including his former best friend, Stephen Jameson, the same man he once stood beside in a Barcelona nightclub, the same man who'd asked him to be best man at his wedding. Now he claimed it was Jameson who'd orchestrated the plot. The court wasn't convinced, and neither were his co-accused. As the trial began, the walls start closing in. Lloyd Cross had already pleaded guilty. Gerard Carbin followed. Then Ryan McPhee. One by one, the network collapsed from the inside. EncroChat messages were read aloud in court. They showed Stevenson giving orders, not taking them, directing the pill factory, arranging bulk cocaine shipments, complaining about delays, adjusting wages, fixing operational gaps. The chat logs weren't loud. They were calm, clear, and structured, just like a criminal logistics manager, working from a distance. Evidence mounted. A 3-minute video of the pill factory was shown to the court. Forklifts, air tanks, machines still loaded with powder residue. Photographs of the banana crates from Dover, the silver bricks pulled from beneath real fruit. Phone logs, usernames, voice notes. His barrister tried to hold the line, argued the links were circumstantial, that the phone could have been cloned, the chats misunderstood. But the digital trail was too clean. The timelines are too tight. Halfway through the trial, Stevenson dropped the act. He changed his plea to guilty. No more denials, no more finger-pointing. The judge didn't need to hear from him again. The courtroom wasn't loud, no outburst, no final defense. Just the quiet turning of a page. The man who'd run one of the UK's most intricate drug networks had finally said the words the Crown had waited years to hear. Guilty. It sounded final. 2 charges, 2 operations. At Glasgow High Court, the sentence was handed down in 2 parts. But what came next caught everyone off guard. And I urge you to stay with me till the end to discover what HSI lawyers did was an exceptional move. The judge, Lord Ericht, described Stevenson as the orchestrator, a man who directed a complex, multi-tiered operation from behind multiple layers of protection. His stepson, his friends, his business fronts, each used as a piece on the board, but none without his instruction. The sentence was 20 years in total, 12 years for cocaine, 8 more for the Valium operation. The rest of the network had already fallen. Gerard Carbin received 7 years. David Billsland, Paul Bowes, and Lloyd Cross were each jailed for 6. Ryan McPhee was sentenced to 4, and Lewis Connor, tied to a string of firebomb attacks, got 3 years in a separate case. Prosecutors moved quickly to apply for a serious crime prevention order, restrictions on cash, communications, movement, to make sure that if he ever came out, he wouldn't pick up where he left off. They also began proceedings to recover proceeds of crime, watches, jewelry, cash, anything that could be tied to the empire, but the case didn't end there. His defense team launched an appeal, argued the 2 crimes were connected, part of a single course of conduct, pointed out the guilty plea, the time saved, the witnesses spared. And in 2023, the court agreed. The sentence was reduced, 16 years and 3 months. Backdated to February 2022, the day he was caught jogging in the Dutch countryside. Now it's your turn. Was justice served, or did Stevenson walk away with less than he deserved? Let us know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. And if this is the kind of story you want more of, the quiet operators, the hidden networks, the ones who nearly got away, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. There's always another empire waiting to fall.